host at Small Town Andrew, Agnes Gibbobey, Josh Spodek, Trust God 7733, and Sean G927. Folks, no matter what you've heard, there's only one president, and that president is Donald John Trump. Without further ado, we will start our discussion. Welcome, my panel.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
So what do you have for us, Andrew? What is going on out there? AG Barr said that there is no fraud, despite hearing all of the different meetings that we've seen that are taking place around different states saying that there is fraud. I don't care if it's just a little fraud. It's fraud. Fraud is fraud. And these are patriots and they're whistleblowers, just like they said the whistleblowers that came out and said that Donald Trump did something wrong with the Ukrainian phone calls. What's the difference? Why are those guys considered patriots and whistleblowers, whereas these whistleblowers, they don't seem to be taken seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. William Barr was a big disappointment as far as I'm concerned. He completely ignored Hunter Biden's laptop and did nothing about that. He hid the Durham report until after the election, and now we'll be lucky if we ever see it. He did nothing to stop the mail-in voting before the election, and now he says there's been no widespread voter fraud. The guy's been a total disappointment in my book, and I've actually stuck up for AG Barr a lot. But his lack of action has been disappointing for me. What do you think, Agnes, of the job Attorney General Barr has done so far?
Well, I have to agree with you, Andrew, because I was a little disappointed myself. Throughout, Barr was on, I think, President Trump, not just through the elections, but I wanted to see some arrests. I wanted to see some handcuffs coming out. I wanted to see some people that committed crimes be arrested and be charged, to give us back the hope and faith that our system is really working. And I am really disappointed. I said it all along throughout this past year. The Democrats were way quiet. And while we're all focusing on the riots, on the burning, on the BLM, and the background, planning this whole thing, and I knew the mail-in ballots was going to be a disaster. And just to show you what a disaster, I'm going to blog address because I don't want people to know, but this official mail-in ballot, I don't know if you can see it, went to my parents, my deceased, and as you can tell, it's an official mail-in ballot for Robert Overstreet, and I'll show it to you again right there. Robert Overstreet, who's not registered in California, and his last name obviously is Overstreet. My parents' last name is Staley, both deceased. And all of a sudden, this is the first time ever that something came in the mail under Robert Overstell. They combined the beginning of his last name and the beginning of my parents' last name. And here you have an official ballot. As you can tell, I'm an honest person. I did not open this. Investigations. And this is the real problem. And not only just one, but I know of people that have received 6.
Unbelievable.
And
So
it is unbelievable. And like I said, I wanted to see some arrests. I wanted to see kicking it, and my heart goes out to President Trump and my heart goes out to all of us, because we are in deep trouble, having come from a communist country, and to see what Kamala Harris and Biden's, he is not going to be my president. I will never claim him as my president. I don't care if that's his title, but socialism is going to kick in even more. And coming from a socialist country really scares me. Really scares me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Bebe, what did you make of Attorney General William Barr's statement today, if it's in fact true that he did make the statement?
Well, actually, I agree with Agnes. Very disappointing because, in part, I don't understand what he's basing it on. What investigation did the Department of Justice launch to determine that there was not enough fraud to overturn the election? And even if there wasn't enough to overturn the election, there was fraud. I want to make sure that that's loud and clear. Now, between the hearings in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, there's been fraud presented over these last several days. I'm just very disappointed with AG Barr. He's produced nothing. They sat on the Durham report. His announcement about the special prosecutor for that means nothing to me. It means nothing as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what he's there for. We might as well have had Jeff Sessions, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, we might as well, because he's done nothing. It's clear that there's fraud. This is no longer when we've left the area or space of conspiracy theory. Now we have hard evidence. The mathematicians have proven it. People, eyewitnesses have seen these fake ballots being shipped in. The 2:00 press conference today by Amistad with these USPS truck drivers, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's so much there. Who did Attorney General Barr reach out to review the information? Let me see what you have before he made this determination. So I'm not happy. Thank you.
Sean, what did you think of Attorney General Barr today and his announcement? Do you still have any confidence left in the guy?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at things here, right? I mean, it's one of those things where, there's a lot of nervousness right now, right? People are wondering, what is this guy doing? What is Barr doing? What is this person doing? It goes back to, and as I was mentioned earlier here, Jeff Sessions, right? And, what was that person doing, And on the negative side, it's like, well, that person appears to be doing nothing or not enough. On the positive side, or the hopeful side, is that person's going to drop the bomb or the Kraken as far as this goes within the next 2 weeks, right? Whatever it is, it needs to happen soon. And like anything else, is the nervousness because you've got to do this soon. And this goes for the same thing for Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, all this team of lawyers, right? Lynn Wood, whoever else you want to add to it, right? Okay, it's great to hear about how great their plan is and what they have in store, but we need to see this happen, and the clock is ticking.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Exactly.
Rob, what were your thoughts on Attorney General Barr today?
Well, I mean, I think I did my diatribe when I did the teaser today as to my disappointment in Attorney General Barr. I just want the truth to come out. I mean, we're looking at two different things here. I'm disappointed in the whole Russia collusion deal because I think he's had ample time to come out or to tell John Durham, okay, this is what we found so far. And if you recall, he did say there's a possibility that, something was done, something nefarious took place, but it's not to say that it warrants us arresting people. And something else we have to bear in mind is that if there are charges, we're looking at this is going to be done in DC, a very liberal Democrat area. So will any of them want to prosecute? I mean, look at the guy, what is his name? Andy McCabe. He did wrong. There was malfeasance, and they came out and they said it, but they chose not to prosecute because they probably knew that, hey, we won't be able to get a guilty verdict. So let's just let it slide. But you can't keep letting these things slide because the law is for all of us. So to wait 2.5 years and for him to come out and say, hey, I'm going to do this. And, the president should be mad because for 2 years he's been here. They've been saying that he was a Russian agent. And now that we see the information that has been declassified, and what does it show us? It proves to us what we've all knew, that Hillary Clinton started this whole Russia collusion thing, and that it went to Barack Obama. Obama knew about it. He knew what she had done. for them to sit back and then to allow all these investigations on taxpayers' money to take place, to go forth, when from day one they knew there's no there. And the people who were prosecuted, they were prosecuted for things that had nothing to do with Russia collusion. So yeah, they could have looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, but there's still no there. So that's that end of it. Now, as far as the election, I just want the truth to come out. If Donald Trump didn't win, so be it. But I want the truth. I want to know if our election process was compromised. If you recall, going back to 2016, everyone from CNN to MSNBC to the New York Times, Washington Post said that our election was compromised, that Russia had something to do with it, and that we must get to the bottom of it, and that there are people that are out there that could tell us what happened. We never got to those people. We never found out who they were. But Adam Schiff had the names. He's never yet revealed those names. Now here we are, fast forward to 2020. We have people who are coming out, sworn affidavits, who are saying that something nefarious took place. Attorney General Barr said, well, maybe it did, but it's not enough to overthrow the election. Okay, fine. Maybe it's not enough to overthrow the election. I don't want you to overthrow the election. I want you to get to the bottom of it. I want you to tell us what happened, who, what, when, where, and how. And as the case is built, and as people see that, hey, they're taking this seriously, there will be other whistleblowers. But just to brush these people off, I mean, how long has it been? Barely a month? And he's going to say, well, we looked, there's nothing there. Whereas today, we still have people who are testifying on a sworn affidavit that there was a there. I mean, at least explain to us your position. Now, it might not be the popular position that everyone wants to hear, but we need to know what happened and how it happened for the integrity of our election so that it doesn't happen again. That is all we're asking for. And if it's that Donald Trump lost, so be it. But statistically, when you're looking at the numbers, it doesn't seem that way. But yet and still, every whistleblower in all these instances from different can be the exact same thing. They didn't collude. They didn't get together. So how can it be that they're all reporting on the same thing? Now, I want to toss this to my good friend Josh, who I think is in the middle of all this. And I'm sure he'll have a different take on what we passionate Trump supporters are saying. So, Josh, what say you? Folks, be nice to Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, it seems to, I mean, there's a lot of things on the table right now. So I'll go to the election of the many things. And it seems like that there's a very hungry media and there's a very hungry court system that wants to get evidence. And there seems to be a lot of people saying there's clear evidence. And I hear hearsay and circumstantial, but nothing, it seems like everybody wants to see the evidence. And there's ample opportunity to show the evidence. And I don't see the evidence. I would love to see the evidence. And it seems like there's just an overwhelming number of people who have had access to what evidence, if there would be evidence that would be meaningful, that they would have seen it. And it keeps not coming up. So I'm open to it coming up. It may come up. As far as I can tell, it hasn't come up yet. And you say you want to hear the story. And I feel like everyone keeps saying the story is that we can't find any evidence. Now, that doesn't mean it's not there. It could be.
Right. But Josh, can I just interject one thing? I'm glad you said that. When you say, we keep looking for the evidence, there's no evidence. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are saying the exact same thing. But then I would submit to you the different people who have taken sworn affidavits that are saying the same thing about trucks that were coming in, dumping in votes. What would you call that? People who are saying that I was told to put this ballot through more than one time. I was told that although there weren't names on the ballots, but to still put it through. What would you call that?
As far as I can tell, it's hearsay. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen any evidence. I'm only hearing it secondhand, third hand, fourth hand. If the entire system is compromised, then I guess there could be genuine evidence being suppressed. And the level of compromise would have to be almost unimaginable for that to happen. Could that be the case? It's possible, but there'd be evidence of that as well. I'm not opposed to there being evidence. I just haven't I just hear people saying someone said something.
I think the crooks have done this before, and they know how to hide away the evidence. We saw in Michigan today, this lady said that 71% of the votes are locked away in a vault, and without a forensic audit, there's no way to even recount them votes and find out if they were proper votes. Mail-in voting was a disaster, like we knew it would be. Over half of America has now lost all faith in our elections. Election night turned into election weeks. Other than a couple exceptions in close elections, which this was not, it was a landslide for President Trump, in my view. We've never had results take this long. And then in some states, they are still counting some votes. I don't know, Agnes, what did you make of it all? The mail-in voting. You were telling us about it before we came on.
Well, how many of these are out there is what I would like to know. And of illegal aliens have voted and there was no repercussion, I would like to know, has anybody ever investigated? Has everybody ever prosecuted anybody that turns in a fake ballot or votes in the name of a deceased person? Those people need to be prosecuted, and that would discourage mail fraud. But, you know, coming from a little tiny little country where I was born in Hungary, they have a very incredible way of voting. You have a voter ID card. Without that, you cannot vote. So when you go into a precinct to vote, there was a few people sitting down. You go to the first person, and I'll say it in terms of American politicians because then you'd be, you can really Republican. That person will check your ballot, will check your name, your voter ID, make sure that that's you, put a check mark. You go to the next person who's a Democrat, they'll check mark you, okay, go to the Independent, go to the Green Party, go to however many parties are sitting there to validate, then you get your ballot and you can vote. And I am absolutely shocked that in United States of America, that it's a free for. Number one, I believe that voting is a federal issue, and it should be unified across every state in this country, not just today this country can do mail-in, this country can do. Look at Los Angeles, right. The voter election integrity caught over 1.5 million more voters than registered votes. They had more votes than registered voters in how much fraud being did. And I would like to know, like in my district, my district 31, San Bernardino, there was I think 49% Latino community. How many in this country and are still voting? Because when the day they got their driver's licenses, they were given a ballot. And in fact, I know from someone who works at a welfare office, them to ask them if they vote and give them a ballot. It should never, welfare should be the last place, DMV should be the last place. There should be a place where everybody goes. None of this, they're still counting California in my district. Today, the next will be the final count, but it doesn't. The next one is, the last one was on the 25th, and then today was the next count. But I don't know when the next one is going to be. When took you know, and then when you do it like that, look, it just opens up for corruption. Oh, we need, Biden needs another 1,000. Let's just 50,000 Biden ballots in there. It can't be like that. You know, I feel cheated, and I'm sure I'm cheated because I know that my voice and my vote counted for something, and that my vote was respected. And I want to know that my vote was counted. And I'm sure every American out there feels the same way. Because if it doesn't count, then what's the point? Let's just have a revolution and get it over with.
Right. What we have to look at is that this is the United States of America, okay, and we should be getting this right. This is 2020, not 1915, And as Agnes said, we should all be voting the same. Not one country's vote, one county is voting this way or one state. It should all be the same across the board, especially when it comes to a federal election, something that is so sacred and so important. Because of course, people are going to walk away and say, well, maybe they cheated or maybe they did this. And this whole mail-in ballots, even the Democrats were saying, I have videotape and I posted this on Twitter, unless Twitter decided to suppress it, with Congressman Nadler saying that, it's riddled with fraud, that anyone can do the mail-in ballots. And then you don't know who signed what, and you don't have to get ID. At least when you're doing an absentee ballot, you have to be verified. So why isn't that this wasn't thought of at this juncture? Why did we wait, knowing that this election was going to be so contested? Bebe, go ahead.
You know why? Because Democrats never let a crisis go to waste. That's already been proven. And they looked at this as an opportunity. And I knew from the get-go how other counties did and other states. I'm just looking overall, but I'm overwhelmed already. This is the first time I've ever run. And it's just incredible, the amount of corruption. I am out there by putting out signs. For every 100 signs that I had out there, my opponent had 1 or 2. What did he know that I didn't know? He didn't need to already have given it in the basket already, and I'm already busting and working really hard. And you look at how much you can see how much I made and how much he made and how much I spent and how much he spent. He spent 10, 15 times more than I did. On what? I had signs, commercials in Spanish and in several different radio stations. There is something was happening, and I can't put my finger on, but I'll tell you, it's a disgrace. The world is laughing at us, and not only our country has been undermined, but the rest of the world the same, because now there are several countries in Europe that do not get along with and it's going to be a disaster, a global disaster. I truly believe that President Trump won just on the support that President Trump got, the rallies that he did, the caravans, the rallies, the car caravans. I went on one. There was 12,000 cars. I blew my horn out. It cost me $150 to have it fixed. But you know what? Where was Biden's support? He's been months while President Trump is out there hustling. And we know, those of us that supported him knew how important this is. But you know what? All these people that for socialism and their freedoms, when the money runs out and they complain, I'm going to be the first one to say, who did you vote for? Biden? Then you need to be quiet. Don't complain.
Right.
I don't want to hear it.
Well said, Agnes. Bebe, what were your thoughts of the mail-in voting this year?
Well, it was obviously used to exploit the situation. All the rules really, it seems, were thrown away through this mail-in ballots. They were not validating the signatures. They were not ensuring that the signature on the envelope matched the signature on the ballot. It was a free-for-all, as Agnes has said. And for the United States, this is a shame and it's an embarrassment. And the biggest obstacle to cleaning up the voter rolls and streamlining the process, at least at the federal level, are the Democrats. They don't want ID to be used to verify. We use ID for virtually everything, but we can't. But they do not want us to present ID to vote. Mail-in ballots should not be used going forward. It causes too much chaos. If you need an absentee ballot, you present your ID, you take the steps, that's different. But mass mail-in ballots is a disaster. I live in New Jersey, and my sister hasn't lived in New Jersey in over 10 years, and they sent her a ballot. This is a disaster. And we have to do something. Or one thing, I want to step back a little bit. Going to Dominion for a moment, and I'm sure we'll touch on Dominion later. This proves that voting electronically does not work because they were attached to the internet all night on November 3rd. So this has just been a disaster, from the fraudulent ballots, the disastrous ballots, and Dominion. This was just a disaster. This election was a disaster. Thank you.
Sean, what did you
I
think
agree,
of
Bebe.
mail-in
Yeah.
voting? Do you think that's what muddied the waters so much this year, and why people have so much distrust in the system? Because Trump supporters were adamant and furious about mail-in voting long before this election ever took place.
Oh yeah, and we were well aware of this bad situation going into several months before this actually happening, maybe years. I don't know how long mail-in voting's lasted, but we were on top of this. We knew the problems, right? I'd also add with absentee balloting, right? Okay, absentee is better than mail-in as far as verification goes. And what happens here is, let's say there's a military base voting overseas, right? From, let's say, some other country, in this election. Well, somebody could see that, hey, a bunch of military votes. Well, those military votes are mostly for Trump, right? I would say at least 90%, 95%. Those guys are for Trump. Well, if somebody in the mail sees that, you can go discard those ballots. And,
Right.
That's another way of invalidating actual real absentee votes that would have been for Trump. I like to think of this too, as in, like, I want to use a football reference, right? Let's say we're watching a football game, right? Somebody catches the ball and it's ruled a touchdown, right? The referees rule that a touchdown. Okay. In this case, Biden has been ruled with a touchdown catch. When you see the replay and you see the everything slowed down, right? You have to be the ones to prove that this was not a touchdown. You have to prove that maybe the ball touched the ground. Maybe the runner was out of bounds. Maybe the runner's knee was down before crossing the plane, right? This is what we need to do now as far as our legal team and everybody else, for our defending Trump. We need to prove that this was not a touchdown, and we need clear evidence. It can't be just like, oh, this may have been not a touchdown. We need that real clear evidence that, hey, the ball hit the ground, the runner's knee was down. We need that to be clear and evident with our legal team going forward here. Totally.
Yeah, well said. I think that should wrap it up on our thoughts on mail-in voting for this edition. And AG Barr, let's move on to the coronavirus. A lot of states and cities are locking down once again. Here in Illinois, a lot of the bars and restaurants have shut down. Some of the counties have decided to not obey Governor Pritzker's shutdown rules. But Josh, what's your make of the coronavirus? Do you think the vaccine is going to get us out of this situation soon, or what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, the headlines seem to say that there's that they'll work pretty well. I mean, it's very fast going through everything, so we're not really sure. I mean, personally, on a voluntary scale, I am following the rules as strictly as I can. When I go out, I always put on my mask. I always wash my hands when I come back inside. And that's what I do myself. To me, that's an act of stewardship. That's an act of community. A lot of people are saying, who's going to take the vaccine? What if it's not safe? I think a lot of people are saying that now, but I have a feeling that there's enough people who really want to take it that they'll be the first ones. And if a few people do take it, then I think a lot of other people will start feeling like they want to take it too. Like, it's easy to say now, who's going to take it, when there's no one's taking it and people are kind of scared. But some people voluntarily take it. They'll want to. And if something goes wrong, I don't know what will happen there, because it would depend on what goes wrong. But if everything goes right, then other people will start saying, I'll take it too. I hope that that's what happens. It's tough to say. I mean, I think everyone sees that nothing like this has happened before, of getting something so fast through. What does fast tracking mean? How much safety tests are not being done? to some extent, I think there are rules that you can take drugs if you're in a very difficult situation. You are allowed to take things that are more experimental.
Thanks
If
to
some people want
President
to do
Trump.
that, yeah, he got first class treatment, but I mean but not vaccines. I mean, the vaccine would be to prevent future spread. At this stage, I just hope it would be. I would love if we got a vaccine that really worked. How long before enough people get it? I'm not sure. I mean, this is forefront science.
Yeah. Sean, what did you make of CNN getting the exclusive that China had actually hidden the coronavirus since at least December? And apparently they were hiding a lot of how many casualties were happened there. I believe we've been saying this the entire time, but did you think it was kind of funny that CNN was the one that had to report that story?
Yeah, I mean, it is funny in that way. And, really not surprising at all that someone like CNN would be hiding this stuff, going back to a year ago. And, and it makes me wonder kind of more on a serious level. It's like, okay, we've got COVID-19 this year. We're waiting for a vaccine. And apparently when the vaccine comes, we can kind of come back to normal. But at the same time, it's like, well, is China going to release COVID-20, COVID-21? I mean, you take the same recipe for COVID-19 and you add some symptoms to it. And then what happens? Well, we're going to have to go mask up again and lock down again and wait for a new vaccine. I mean, because that's the slippery slope that we could be looking at,
Right.
Because they got the labs right there in China, Wuhan, wherever else. You could easily release COVID-20, COVID-21, COVID-29. I mean, it all could be thrown out there. And then who's to say a place like Russia couldn't be releasing something like their version of COVID, And it would be like their, name a Russian term that would be the equivalent of COVID. Their Chernobyl type of an illness coming out there, and you could see that happening. So I mean, man, we really have to watch out for this stuff because people will capitalize on this and expose this as being the next great pandemic. Could be next year,
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And I'd like to see some repercussions to China for this thing getting out of there in the first place. That's one of the really scary things about Joe Biden taking office is how light he is on China and the millions of dollars his son has made through their government. Agnes, what do you think of the coronavirus shutdown, the vaccine, and are you ready to go back to normal yet?
I'm ready to go back to normal for 8 months. Well, I truly believe that this is a very serious virus, and we probably had it before even February or March. But I think we all need to take necessary wash your hands. Every time I go to the grocery store, I come home, I get in my car, I sanitize my hands, my arms, even my face, my nose, my mouth. I get home, I unload the groceries, I wash my hand, I put the groceries away and I wash my hands. I'm doing what I need to do as a precaution, but the fact still remains that I do not believe that just wearing a little cloth mask is preventing us from, and California has gone to the extreme of shutting everything down, even outdoor eating. And I don't think that's right. I think it's destroying the economy in this country. It has secondary issues. Those that are sick, those that are ill, please stay home, medical treatment early on. Do not go out to infest everybody else. And this is flu season, guys. October, November, December, January, February. We're in this month. So are we going to blame it all on COVID, or are we going to just blame it on the flu season? But we need to get through with our lives and go on and open up, be responsible for themselves and allow businesses to open, because the economy in this country is being destroyed. Many businesses have been in California. It's really sad to see what's happening. I hope everyone is safe. My heart goes out to those that have have contracted. My cousin in Hungary contracted it also. So for about a week, he had a very compromised health issue, and he's okay. And I am not sure about the vaccine. I don't know if enough is studied, and I don't know if I would be the guinea pig to, allow them to inject me with it. I haven't taken, knock on wood, I've been very healthy, but I don't have the answers to that. I don't know. I hope that people take necessary precautions. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well said. Bebe and Rob, you guys, what are your thoughts on if China, we should do anything to China? Do you think that they should get away with this?
Absolutely.
Well,
not.
let me just say, sorry.
Go ahead, Bebe.
Sorry, Rob.
Bebe,
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
All
Bebe.
right, thank
Go ahead.
Thank you. Number one, no, China should not get away with this. But one of the problems we face is that the Democrats refuse to acknowledge that this came from China. It came from Wuhan, China, a lab in China, period. What the Democrats have done is exploit this. Essentially, it's a strain of the flu. They've used this to control the American people, even to the point of crushing their own constituents. They don't care. It's about power. Small businesses are being destroyed. Walmart, we can shop at Walmart, we can go to Costco and Target, but they don't want you to go to your local grocery store or the barber shop, anything like that. This is absolutely disgraceful. COVID-19 is real, but the reaction.
Did we lose Bebe? We lost Bebe. Sean, until we get Bebe back, can you comment on? Oh, Bebe is back. Okay.
I just wanted to conclude by saying very quickly, this is not the bubonic plague. If it were, you'd have homeless people dropping dead in California and New York. This has been overblown, overplayed to move us towards socialism and to control the American people. This is out of bounds. It's too much. The restrictions imposed on us in California and New York, it's unconstitutional. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, well
if I could just add on to that, I concur with everything that Bebe said. I think that what we're missing out of this, and not us, of course, but I think what the media is trying to hide, both left, right, whatever you want to call them, and big tech, is that COVID-19 is real. Okay, we need to be safe. We need to be careful. Lockdowns don't work. The World Health Organization has told us that. Children should go back to school. But something that's even more important that we can't lose sight of is that there are 333 million plus people in the United States of America. Of that number, right now, approximately 10 million people have contracted the virus. Of that number, 300,000 have died. Anytime a person dies, it is unfortunate. But those numbers are pretty good. 333 million people plus in the United States. Okay. And the numbers that they're saying of people that have died, they're saying COVID-19. But now we know that when you look at those numbers, you look at the death certificates, you'll find that the person might have had COVID-19, but they didn't necessarily die of COVID-19. Yet and still the media is scaring us. We should be celebrating of the 10 million people who've contracted the virus and are still alive. Why aren't we celebrating the living? Why are we going around looking out the door, looking at every corner, wondering, am I going to get it? It's going to get me. This is absurd. In the meantime, you have people who are committing suicide. I read an article today that in Japan in itself, women, the suicide rate of young women has just like gone through the roof because of the pressure of COVID-19, them having to be, breadwinners and unable to take care of the family because they have children. And you look at the United States, quiet as it's kept. You don't see the reports from anyone on the media of the increase of domestic violence, domestic abuse, child abuse, people who are depressed. I did a panel the other day with some women, and they were talking about how they're trying to hold it together. No one is talking about that. The only thing we're talking about is, oh, the people are dying, and they're filling up the hospitals, and they're ripping away at the seams. I mean, I find it a little hard to believe. Yes, it might be true, but I get really passionate about this because I know that someone is lying out there to scare the masses. And when you're able to put fear in people's heart, they will give away anything and everything. As we see is the case now, people staying inside. I can't go to work. I can't this because it might get me. It's going to get me. If it's going to get you, it will get you. Okay, but look at the people who are surviving. That's what we have to look at. If you have an underlying condition, be careful. But why is it that the mayors in California and in New Jersey, they can go out and have a handsomely good meal and others can't? They can go out and just do parties on top of parties. Now, I'm not saying to do that. And yes, their judgment there was a flaw in their judgment. But this fear that they're creating, and then you have Dr. Fauci, who's now coming out saying, oh, yeah, send the kids to school. Well, Dr. Fauci, we should have been doing that all along. What changed? Who wasn't paying you now? No, hypothetically speaking, maybe he's not being paid by someone. But these are people, these are human beings. And we're being so unreal as to, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now people are fighting back because they're tired of it. And you want to tell me that these same people voted? Sorry to do this, Andrew. Voted for Joe Biden? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yes, and before I ask Sean his next question, is everyone good on time to stay on for a while?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We got all night.
Okay, excellent. Sean,
yeah, I'm ready, Andrew.
Sean, we've seen the hypocrisy in a lot of these COVID advocates. London Breed, the mayor of San Francisco, was just busted in the same restaurant that Gavin Newsom was busted in his party. I saw you had a tweet about Cardi B. She had a 40 people Thanksgiving get-together. What did you make of Cardi B having over 40 people at her Thanksgiving get-together?
Yeah, and I mean, it's one thing to, because early on, Cardi B she criticized Trump, saying like, hey, Trump was not social distancing, was not wearing masks, and he got COVID a couple months ago, right? We remember that. And she was like, oh, that was so careless. And then she's the one throwing these parties, wild parties, where she's at the club and no one's wearing a mask. And there was a video just this week of her Thanksgiving with 40 people at her house, just going around dancing, then having Thanksgiving dinner. It's like, hey, that sounds great. I'd like to have that too. But her doing that becomes so hypocritical because it gets into, it's, I can do this, but you can't. And it reminds me of just any politician like a Gavin Newsom saying, hey, you guys can't have anybody for Thanksgiving or Christmas, but oops, I'm going to be spotted here at some restaurant in San Francisco without a mask. We're having a great time, So it's like, it's what is for, it's not for me, it's for thee in all these rules. So it's another example of that. And Cardi B it's not surprising at all because that's what we've known from Cardi B, and she's not good.
Right. Josh, I know you're not as much of a Trump supporter as the rest of us, or a Trump supporter at all, maybe for that matter. But do you think that we should do anything to China? What's your take on this situation with the virus being made in Wuhan, China? Do you think that they should have to pay for getting out of their country?
Well, there's something that I've been saying from the start that everyone keeps saying, not yet, Josh, not yet. And for years, maybe decades, people have been saying when, not if, about viruses and pandemics, which could be virus-based, could be other pathogen-based. And the reason people have been saying when, not if, well, there's been SARS and MERS and Ebola and lots of other pandemics and smaller outbreaks that have happened. And the reason is that we know very well where these past ones have come from, that they come from when humans encroach onto wildlife territory, in the case of Ebola, for example, when we have factory farming and we put lots of animals together, especially different species, so that something can jump from one species to another. And then cases where we have livestock when we're in wet markets, things like that it can jump very easily. So we are almost breeding viruses and other pathogens. And these practices, we know what happens. If we do that enough, it will happen. And that's why people say when, not if. I would like to see prevented. People aren't really looking at how do we prevent the next one from happening. Now, you guys are saying that this is made in a lab. Even if this is made in a lab, there are other ones that will come that will jump from other species to us because that has happened in the past, and we can predict it happening. So that's what I want to see most of, is how to prevent future pandemics from happening. It, especially in the ways that we know how it's happened in the past, and we keep doing.
Well said. Does anyone have any comment on that? If not, we'll move on to the next topic.
No, I'll just say that, yes, absolutely. I think that China should be held responsible. I don't care if it was in a wet market or a lab. China needs to be held accountable. And I put up a video the other day from some guy in China who was saying, oh, we got him. This is exactly what we wanted. Again, don't take my word for it. Google it, Yahoo it, go to DuckDuckGo or DuckGoGo. Do your own research. But if you look around you, you will see that China is in your backyard. China is in Central America. China is in South America. China has already helped many of our allies in these developing countries, so that when it's time for them to call in a favor, they will have nothing to do but to respond in kind to China. And now that China Joe is planning on stealing the election, and he's putting all these individuals like John Sullivan in all these key positions, whose position is, we need to welcome China. We need to make certain that China is prosperous. I don't think so. Buyer beware.
Well said, Rob. And this next one's for Agnes. Unfortunately, she's gone through this tragic situation in her family with her son, Ronald, killed by a twice deported illegal alien. In California this week, a 3-time deported illegal alien was charged with double murder in a stabbing spree in San Jose. In 2019, he was arrested for inflicting corporal injury on a spouse, kidnapping, and threatening crime with intent to terrorize. The police department released him after a night in prison so he could elude ICE that was actually going to pick him up.
Horrible.
Did you see this story, Agnes?
I very vaguely heard about it, and honestly, angry when I see or hear of another victim at the hands of an illegal alien, especially the ones that have been already apprehended and they are let free. We need to start filing lawsuits against police officers, not police officers, whoever is letting them out, to endanger and put us in there, and allowing for these criminals. And I mean, my heart goes out to everybody that has been ever affected, regardless if they're one. But if a victim is a victim, either you have been raped, molested, it leaves scars in your life permanently. I will never recover from mine, unfortunately. None of us who have lost a child, but our government keeps talking about, oh, we are separating families. And gosh darn it, Obama came on TV about a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, saying that this administration, meaning President Trump, is putting these kids in prison, in cages. And I wanted to reach to the and just grab him by the out and just, are you a moron, or what's wrong with you? That was in your administration. And you know, going back to Biden already said he's going to open the borders. There are already thousands of migrants coming towards our border because they know they're going to be let in. Which one of the members are they willing to sacrifice? Because I'm not standing in line to sacrifice anybody in my family anymore. But the COVID that they would be bringing into our country, but nobody's talking about that. I know what the solution is. I understand. I'm not against legal immigration. to vet people coming in this country. There is a reason for that. You don't invite just anybody into your home. You do not just open the door and just allow anybody in. You pay attention who comes into your, letting everybody in, and that's not okay. And I can guarantee you, everybody watching there, either, I hope to God it's not your one, but it's going to be somebody that you know that's going to be affected by illegal alien crime. And this SB 54 here in California, giving sanctuary to illegal aliens, it's a slap in the face for every legal immigrant who went through the process, being fully vetted to come legally into the United States. My family, because I wish I could visit my son in a cage. I really do. But unfortunately, I have to go visit him in a cemetery. This talks before that what keeps me from my son, 6 feet, I'm 6 feet apart from my son permanently. I'm separated by 6 feet of dirt in a car. Doesn't care. Nobody has ever reached out. Nobody cares. Nancy Pelosi has never accepted, never had a meeting with us. They don't want to hear it. They don't care. They don't care. And may God forgive me for saying this. I hope nobody has to experience this pain, especially when you know a child should be there and you're buying Christmas presents for your children, and you know you can't buy for your son because he's no longer here. The only thing you can buy for your son is a dozen roses or 2 dozen roses to take to the cemetery. That's really a hard pill to swallow, but I hope that maybe this would change if every politician that goes along with this insanity of open borders, let everybody in, that they will be victimized in the same way we have been. So maybe then they'll open one eye and start seeing how devastating this is and what a big mistake they have done.
Right.
And
awful. God bless you, Agnes.
God bless all of those that have been.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Agnes. Bebe, what are your thoughts on these sanctuary states? California, I think New York's another one where even if these illegals are criminals, they just let them out of jail early, even so that ICE cannot get to them to deport them in time. What do you make of this, Bebe?
Well, I think it's an absolute disgrace, and it's a Democrat Party. It's a disgrace. The sanctuary cities are very dangerous. Americans do not have a sanctuary city. We're the sanctuary cities for Black men who are criminals. They don't have any sanctuary cities. This is an outrage, and my heart goes out to Agnes and other angel moms and dads who have their children murdered by illegal aliens. This is an outrage. Americans must be put first. That is the duty of any elected leader. Otherwise, you do not need to be in a position, and you should not be in a position to be in leadership in the United States if you're putting us last. It's an outrage. And I think one of the things I loved about President Trump, he understood and he understands the dangers of sanctuary cities. But more must be done to protect American citizens. This is one of the worst things that the Democratic Party has ever done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well said, Bebe. Sean, do you want to comment on the sanctuary city policy, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, and first, thanks to Agnes for sharing her story, and heart goes out to her and her family. Just many thoughts and prayers. I think with this whole situation, it's like, it's a no-win situation for us, because if you allow any illegal immigrant over, okay, even if that person is like a good person and not doing anything wrong, well, that person could still take away jobs from hardworking American citizens, and maybe they'll work for cheaper. And, that's some of the problems going into some of these border states like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, where even if they're a good person, the downside is that person could still be taking away jobs from our hardworking, Americans. And there's no real upside to this. We're just adding more people to our country and hoping that they're going to be a good person. But, they have not had to pass a citizenship test. Some of the greatest things to see is seeing some of these people come over and actually go through the process of gaining citizenship and actually learning about our country, our Constitution, and feeling so proud when that actually happens. I've seen pro athletes do that. I've seen, different people, celebrities do this that came from another country. And their pride from doing that is just so great. And that's being taken away too. Do it legally and it becomes so much better and you get so much more out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, well said, Sean. Moving on to another topic here. I know the environment is what you care about so passionately, Josh. Do you like Joe Biden's pick of John Kerry to be in charge of the climate change section of his administration?
Tough to say. I mean, he doesn't strike me as someone who's worked a lot on the environment before. To me, the biggest issue, I mean, people talk about what they can do legally, what laws they can do, what they can do with or without Congress. To me, there's a bigger issue independent of, what bills you sign and so forth. There's also an issue of leadership, which is independent of what laws are passed. And we talked about, you guys talked about hypocrisy of Cardi B in a different context. I don't see a lot of people acting by the values that they tell others to. And to me, it feels like I feel like what I see in government is a lot of people, here's how I put it. It's like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting where the person in the front is holding some alcohol and periodically drinking it and telling others what what alcohol does to your liver as a bunch of facts, but not actually doing it themselves. So what I believe would be one of the most effective things is for them at least to try to show on a personal basis that they are trying themselves to do this. So if someone acts in that way, I think that would be very welcome. I think people are craving leadership in the area of the environment. I think everyone recognizes that there's a lot of plastic. There's a lot of people don't like mercury. I don't know anyone who wants mercury in their fish. And I think people want to change their behavior in a lot of ways. They want their lawns to be more clear of plastic litter and things like that. When I took the train from LA to Houston, at a whistle stop, hours from when there was any cell coverage whatsoever, when the train would stop and people could go out and rest their legs, there were Coke cans and Marlboro packs on the ground in the middle of nowhere. I don't think anybody wants that. And as long as people say, this is what you should do, don't mind me that I'm not doing it, I think everyone else will also say, oh, this is what you should do. Don't mind while I'm not doing it. That's what I'd like to see more than anything else, is leadership, active participatory leadership coming from the people who are in the positions of authority.
I agree.
Oh, maybe I just closed that one.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, because you have a lot of people, as far as John Kerry, the environmental czar. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. I guess he got tired of just riding around a little small plane. Now he wants a rather large plane, bigger staff. He can get around and say, do this and do that. Don't do this, don't do that. Get us back in the social club, the climate, the Paris Peace Accord, or whatever they call it. Yes, the environment is important. Okay, but I don't want a bunch of yahoos, elitists, telling me what I can and I can't do while they're doing it, such as the case with COVID-19. Stay in your apartment, stay in your house, don't use a straw, don't go out to eat. But I find you going out to eat and you're partying. Really? What kind of example are you setting for all of us? You got Governor Whitmer, who's telling people you can't do this, but her husband is out, doing whatever he wants to do, visiting people. It's not nice. It's not good, So these people need to look at themselves before they try to start taking away our rights and telling us how to live.
Well said, Rob. And then Joe Biden apparently broke his foot today.
Ouch.
Playing with his dog or his toe, whatever happened to his foot. He is now in a walking boot. It looks like it's going downhill fast for him already. Sean, is that what you're worried about?
Yes, and bring in the conspiracy theories as to what really happened besides Joe playing with his dog, and we can speculate all we want as far as what happened here, and what I think is funny as well, as far as like with Trump, is I think let's talk optimistically here, and that Trump can turn things around, right? I think part of this thing with Trump is like he's kind of messing with us a little bit here, kind of like making it look like where we go hopeless. And at the same time, looking at different people and seeing who's going to turn on him. And we're seeing who the rhinos are, We're seeing who's like going to join on to a Biden campaign and who's all, welcoming of that. I think Trump is, putting out a kind of a trap to some of these people as well, And so, I mean, each day we hear new news about like, oh, this is a new Biden campaign member, and Biden tripped over his dog, and maybe he should contact Mitt Romney about that, because wasn't it Romney who put his dog on the top of his car? But we get these ridiculous stories, and right now I think as supporters of Trump, we just kind of have to have some patience with it, have a little laugh, and I think he's having a little fun with us as well. And hey, we have to look at the big picture, and if it all turns out great for us in the big picture in the end, well, we'll roll with that and we'll have a little laugh.
Yeah. Assuming that the Democrats are able to keep this election the way it is right now, Agnes, does this give you any concern at all that Joe Biden's durability, you live in the same area that Kamala Harris has put in her political career, does she scare you even more than Joe Biden if something were to happen to Joe Biden, who's like 78, 79 years old?
The Democratic Party scares me. This whole socialist agenda scares me. I think too much coercion in our lives takes our freedom away. And unfortunately, many people don't realize how valuable, how precious freedom is. Being left everything behind, they can experience and live in freedom like my family did. I am concerned. I don't, with all due respect to Biden, I don't like him. I think he's very weak. He has anger issues, but I think that he's going to be a very inefficient president, and I'm even more concerned that Obama is going to come in and start guiding and directing him. Hold on seats, because we're in for a ride.
Oh yeah.
And very, very scary. Very scary. I don't. I want to see less government involvement in our lives, in our personal lives. Let our children are going to be attending. Let parents choose about their education, school choice. Let's allow us to make decisions for ourselves instead of the government telling us what to do. Because the more we give up, give up control to the government, the less power we have and the less control we have. And that's what they're doing. They're trying everybody dependent on the government. They're dishing out millions of dollars in stimulus packages. And who's going to pay for this? People that make those packages. Why? There are no checks and balances. It's like this country is ran by kindergartners. I'm not an expert in politics. I don't know much about politics, but I have common sense. And it looks like in California, we don't have much common sense. Gavin Newsom wants Medicare. Why? Medicare is already on the point of bankruptcy. These illegal aliens are coming here that are of age, they never pay a dime into the system. Why should they draw from it. It's gonna in allowing millions of illegals to come in to our country. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of them. They're going to be very productive, good. There's going to be a burden on our site. It's going to take our jobs, undercut your salaries, our children's, our grandchildren's salaries, and that's not okay. That is not okay. We should always put Americans first.
Absolutely, America first.
Yep. Well said. And do you guys have any final thoughts before I give everybody a plug before we go here?
No, I think we covered a lot tonight. I want to thank our panel for joining us. Trust God 7733, Sean G 927, and Agnes Gibbobey, as well as Josh Spodek. I want to thank you all. There has been a very, I think, well put together panel, even discussion, and I want to say just thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. Thank
you so much. God bless. Have a wonderful holiday.
Agnes, if people want to keep up with you, where can they find you at? Agnes.
They can go on my Facebook page, Agnes Gibbobey. Agnes Gibbobey. I mean, that's my Facebook page. On Twitter, Agnes_Gibbobey, or Agnes Gibbobey. Very easy to find. Just Google my name and you'll find me.
Mm-hmm. And for tons of great information about the environment, Josh has got it all over his site. Where could they find that at, Josh?
Yeah, so I think my Twitter is up there at Spodek, and then my first name, joshuaspodek.com. And you could start with my 3 TEDx talks, my podcasts, and lots of blog posts. But it's all at joshuaspodek.com. Oh, and my books. Excellent.
And as always, we can find Sean on Twitter at SeanG927 with a dinosaur avatar. Very funny tweets and a great follow. So
you will see that dinosaur. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. We appreciate you all for joining us. This is the biggest panel we've done so far, and we had a great time with you guys. And thank you so much. God bless everyone, and we'll see you guys on Thursday night.
And share the replay. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, everyone.